I'm here to talk about legislation I filed this session, an act relative to the divestment of pension funds from nuclear weapons. To really, put my support for our peace agenda in context, I like to go back to when Dr. King outlined those triplets of evil, of racism, militarism, and materialism. And when I think about mass peace action, what I think about is how on those first two triplets, well, by no means we have, reached the finish line, and we have so much more work to do. We at least see, on all levels of political discourse, efforts to address racism, efforts to address inequality. But then when it comes to that third triplet of evil, the militarism, all too often it's up to folks like us in this conversation to bring that, to the fore, as there are really two existential threats to human existence on this planet. One is climate change. The other is nuclear weapons. Again, when we think about climate change, we have not reached the finish line. We are fighting for every gain we make, but we are actively having that fight. Everybody's talking about that. Joe Biden's talking about that. But again, when it comes to nuclear weapons, has the conversation really reached the level that it needs to? We know it hasn't. We have to do so much more work to elevate this issue of peace, to elevate this issue of nuclear disarmament, and to get it on the same footing as some of the other issues like climate change. And so that's really what this legislation is about. It's a basic divestment bill that would charge, the pension funds to go through their portfolios, to look at their holdings, to come up with a report, and then in a responsible and timely fashion, divest those investments. And I think what's so important is to look at the history of divestment in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the tremendous success that we've had. Back in 1982, Representative Mel King was a leader in the effort to have Massachusetts divest from South Africa and the apartheid regime. Massachusetts did that, and that was a critical step in helping to undo that structure of racism, of apartheid. Likewise, in the year 1990, Governor Dukakis stood up and said we should divest from tobacco. It actually took us 7 years to do that, so it shows, that the legislative process can be slow and grinding. But by the year 1997, we successfully passed legislation to divest from tobacco. And that helped add to the momentum that has really changed the culture and the thinking around that substance as well. And it's so important because, we know that when it comes to nuclear weapons, there's only room for one mistake, one either accidental or intentional nuclear discharge or conflict could very well spell the end of all life on Earth. It could certainly spell the end of human existence. And any serious thinker who looks at this situation will tell us this is untenable. We cannot have, these nuclear weapons on hair trigger alert. We cannot have continued investment in nuclear weapons. As long as you keep showing up, I'm going to keep showing up, because we have to put peace on the agenda.